Hey guys, Sanchai here, and I thought I would go ahead and put out another video to update my PvP tier list for the classes for Sword of Legends Online after the conclusion of Closed Beta 2. So let's get into it. Alright, let's start with Redemption here. So last video I put Reaper as C tier because I didn't think that they were very good at the time and their damage needed to be increased. So my opinion on them have definitely changed in the 3v3 scene for sure. I would put them here at an A tier. The reason I would put them here at an A tier is because one, I do believe that especially the DPS spec is probably gear related because the higher tier Reapers that I started facing now, I did face Genexi, which, I mean, he's just rank 1 and 2s across all the different types of servers, so I don't feel like you can overall measure the powerful class that it is, because, I mean, well, Genexi also plays every single class, so, I mean, basically I could probably say, like, oh, well, all the classes are S tier when it comes to Genexi, but he's just super, you know, informed, and he also just has been playing the game a long time. So I feel like you can't measure other players up against him because I mean, I'll be honest, I've witnessed him doing like 1v3s and stuff like that, but it's just because he knows what he's doing, and even I'm still not 100% there. Like I'm still not a great player overall, but I'm still learning as I go. But I would definitely say overall, any Reaper that takes the time and learns the class and learns the ins and outs and actually practices it well, I would say that they would be around A tier, especially the DPS Reaper. I'll tell you what's scary is I faced a team with Reaper DPS, Reaper heals, and then a Bard. And that team was very scary and it was very hard. We beat it once or twice, but it was just hard overall just because of the amount of CC. And, you know, Bards get the double ice block, and especially if they're just tossing it on another Reaper, at least for the one that they can toss on the other player with having their own, it was pretty hard to work around it. So yeah, I think Reaper has a very nice spot where it's at. Like I said, I haven't played one myself, but I do believe after another full week and I started seeing item levels for Reaper grow, I saw the increase of Reapers climbing the ladder this last beta test. So I think they're settling right around here for A tier. Alright, and then my new updated tier for Mr. Spearmaster would actually be C before I put them as S tier because one, I didn't know how to play against them. And now that I know like little triggers to look for and whatnot, I rarely ever lost even like one-on-ones with Spearmasters. There were occasions that I did lose to them. Um, Maybe I just also didn't face really good ones. And like I said, all of these tiers are based off of personal opinion on where I think they fall on the ladder. It's no one means like, you know, oh man, well, because he said this, like this is how it should be. No, it's like these are just my opinions of what I played and how I do it. Um, that's just what I think it is. Uh, Berserkers, I would say also fall they kind of fall in between, I think, A and B, where, you know, it almost comes almost down once again where, you know, with Reapers, like you could either be amazing or, you know, kind of lackluster. So I'm just going to go ahead and put them here on the B tier list for right now. Um, I definitely think that they have great potential, and what I figured out was if you actually look at my one PvP video, I think it's second match in on the one where rank 8 was achieved. Um, you see me kind of 1v2 with my sword artist against a berserker and a spearmaster, and Saravati I think was the spearmaster. Spearmaster was like half HP, and the berserker was like 3/4 HP. So I mean, decent amount. But what I discovered is, from what I can tell, if you just start jumping one-on-one with a berserker half the time, one, they sometimes have trouble keeping track of you, but two, a lot of their damage is kind of like Blade Artist, or not Blade Artist, sorry, excuse me, Blade Storm from Spell Sword is when I was playing Blade Storm, the melees, most of them have a cone in front of them, and when you trigger it, if they're not in front of you, it's not going to damage you. So when I started jumping around with my ranged Spell Sword, um, I found like I wasn't taking a whole lot of damage. So a good way to, at least from what I can tell, a good way to avoid damage from a Berserker is you just keep moving and you keep jumping and try and make yourself untargetable by their abilities. Summoner, I'm actually going to put in the S tier because Summoner is like stupid strong. Um, I have a Summoner in our 3 comps, and the fact they're almost like hunters from World of Warcraft, where either all or most of their abilities are all castable while moving. And that is very good, especially in 3s. As long as you keep yourself moving and you can try and keep yourself out of harm's way, it helps you tremendously by helping you avoid a lot of damage. At least at possibilities damage. I mean, unless you're playing against a 3 range DPS. But um, every time that we queued up, um, I always found that our summoner was being, number one target, and especially with their double meteor and it does stuns. I just feel like they're prime target number one. All right, my class of spell sword, I'm gonna go ahead and put an A tier because they are also they can also, I would say even spell sword could actually be tied between S and A, but I'm gonna go ahead and put we're down here at A. Um, Once again, it's another class I do believe that does take work. Now, ranged is a lot easier to play than Bladestorm. Bladestorm has a lot less buttons to use than Sword Artist, but you need to make sure that you can always nail the person down with Bladestorm DPS. Because, like I said, if they're moving and they're not either in your front area, you're not going to take damage, or if they actually escape in the middle of like our illusionary blade, which is our 2-second cannot be attacked, and it's like we attack from 4 different directions. Um, it just doesn't do really that much damage, including our silent snow, which is like our major DPS. That's another one that where you have to be in range. So for Bladestorm, you definitely need to make sure you have CC up in order to at least delay them in 1 second before you fire off either an illusionary blade or your silent snow. So, but Sword Artist is also very strong. Um, People always told me that it's inferior to melee, but I think they're both on par with each other for the most part. And then again, like I haven't probably played enough Bladestorm. I'm still uncertain, but I'm thinking I actually will be going Bladestorm for PvP. If not, I'll at least try to have 2 gear sets for doing battlegrounds for Sword Artist, and then probably Bladestorm for 3s. But I'll try and make a video guide at a later time. I'm actually going to be currently trying to play on the Taiwan servers to try and get more of a definitive feel for myself, but I'll see if I can even figure it out. But if not, it's kind of whatever. And lastly, Bard. Bard, I would say, is also A tier. The reason I think it's also A tier is, I mean, they still do a stupid amount of damage for their DPS spec. They get double ice block. They're just all rounded a pretty decent choice for 3v3s, especially. Um, and it wasn't until I believe it was the second closed beta test, like very first day back, because I didn't get to explore too much with Bard. Um, I did not realize that their ice blocks, so they have one that's basically on the cooldown that they can toss on another character. They can also toss on themselves, but I did not realize that the secondary ice block was an auto cannot die trigger, where I did not realize when they were going to receive lethal damage that the ice block will trigger, or if they fall below a certain percentage of health. And I was like, okay, that's kind of broken a little bit. It's like, yeah, I can just, go all willing, you just go ham, and then once I'm about to die, I'm going to get ice blocked. So therefore, then I know I need to get away, and then I'll reassess the situation and get back in there. Um, like I said, I think this is kind of where the hierarchy lies as far as the 3 scene goes. Battlegrounds is just, I don't know, it's a little bit of a chaos, but we did pretty well for our guild. And I did see a forum post the other day where they were talking about how a 15-15 or even a 10v10, all you got like a big pre-made group for an entire guild, which I mean that's always what we usually had, versus just like a 10 or a 15 group of just random queue players. Now I do agree with them in the sense of like, yeah, it kind of sucks if a full pre-made group is queuing, then they should go against a full pre-made group. But if it's not a full pre-made group, then there's nothing really you can do about it. But I also said the same thing I think in the previous video where it's kind of ridiculous when a 3v3 team is queuing up against solo queues. Because obviously, us as an actual composition is going to have better communication and better timing than people that are just randomly queuing because they won't have communication. Now, skill does play a part to where, yeah, a higher skilled player, well, maybe not so much. Like if you only have one necessarily a high tiered player solo queuing versus 3 pre-mates with 2 not so good players, they're probably still going to end up losing. So, I mean, skill is what really matters, I believe, in this game. Like the gear is not going to push you unless your gear score is like a big differential. Like, someone that's like a 56 item level is not really going to outshine overall on an item level 50. But if you're talking about like item level 65 to like a level 50, then yeah, there's going to be quite a big difference in gear because of the stat difference. So, but yeah, I think that's going to be it, guys. I think this is where I think the classes fall after the closed beta 2. I'm going to curious to see what kind of patch notes or any kind of notes that they put out prior to the announcement of launch. I don't know if they're going to be doing any more dev streams prior to that. I'm just excited for the game to be coming out and making more content. And so let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And if you like the video, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks, guys.